Hello, thanks for joining us. This is Up Front. It's a brand new monthly series. My name's Daphne Good with Shaw TV. We're going to be featuring local leaders and politicians discussing public affairs on South Vancouver Island. And I'm delighted today to welcome Mayor Maja Tait of Sooke, and a person who was first elected to Sooke Council in 2008. Welcome, Maja. Now going into your third consecutive term.
Yes.
When you look at the number of politicians we have on South Vancouver Island, you're relatively new, even now approaching your third term. Of course, you were on council first, then elected as mayor in 2014. But you really became very involved as CRD director as well, and I know recently elected to the Union of BC Municipalities. You've got it all happening, and you have a busy career as a property manager. You're a fairly new mom, and obviously a busy wife as well. So lots of people say, why do women put themselves through this, especially women who seem to have so much more of a burden when they're entering public life? What's your answer to that?
I think it's important to rise to the challenges that are given to you. When I first got on council, I was recently married and I just had a career, and so there was a juggling act to make that happen. The commitment to public service and also building a career and building a healthy marriage at the same time. And then as life happens, serving in municipal office is one that I take very seriously, but I come from a place of gratitude. And as life rolls on, different opportunities come, and I take them because I think it's a better way for me to expand my portfolio, to grow as a person, and to improve and better my service to our community. And at the same time, being blessed with a child is an incredible experience all on its own. And so I hope from this what I can do is create a better world for my child and other children as well. And what that's given me is a different perspective on the challenges that families face in our region, one that I've heard of, but I have not had the opportunity to experience myself.
Now you're seeing it firsthand.
Yes.
You have perhaps a bit of an edge because you came from the Leadership Victoria background, like a lot of good leaders in our community.
Yes.
And you also have a considerable amount of volunteer experience. We're people generally as volunteers in this community, we're so blessed. We have so many of them. They roll up their sleeves, they dive in, they get an awful lot of work done. So can we credit some of your experience in life to that volunteer experience? And maybe you could tell us about what you learned in your Leadership Victoria time.
Yes, I believe I can credit it to my volunteer experience. I grew up in a very small community where everyone volunteered for the betterment and to make the community safer. So from a very young age, I was in Brownies, and then my father was in the Lions Club, and we always rolled up our sleeves to work on behalf of the community. And Leadership Victoria was an opportunity that came about, and I was at a point in my life where I wanted to see what I wanted to do, and I felt stuck. And so Leadership Victoria helped me find doors that I needed to open. And the other part was real insight into how you can really build a team, because we were working on community projects together. They weren't groups that we selected on our own. We were placed into groups, and apparently we were all placed with other potentially challenging personalities, and this came out through the Myers-Briggs tests that everyone had to do. And through that, we needed to create a shared vision, shared goals, complete our project, and work together to make it happen. And so that experience itself, I think, has helped me serve as a mayor.
Much like a microcosm of many council tables,
yes,
I would say.
Yes.
That's terrific. I want to talk about something that you've come forward with lately, which is one of your very big concerns, and that is the number of crashes on Sooke Road itself. It's a place with no escape route that recently has seen a lot of bad crashes. In January, the one between the car and the logging truck closed the road for 6 whole hours during rush hour. It's an ongoing concern. How do you think you're going to, you and others, solve that problem? And I guess the bigger question is, where's the money going to come from when there are so many other larger projects like the Mackenzie interchange or the Malahat? They're gobbling up provincial money so quickly, and no end of infrastructure projects.
Yes, well, Sooke is the fastest growing community on the island according to recent census statistics. And since we incorporated in '99, the 2002 census to our last one, we've seen growth over 48%. We're a very desirable place for people to choose to live in and to now invest in. And so our challenge with Highway 14, it is the one road in and out, but there's certain sections where there's no way to detour. So the recent crash that occurred, there was a detour available. As a commuter, you know that you would get home. There was a delay, but you will be moving home. In other areas, the road is completely closed. And so the province is aware of our challenges. They are helping us work through this. They are completing a study right now of the road. They do this every 15 years apparently. And what I'm hoping to see are real short, medium, and long-term goals. And I'm hoping that with the census data, we can really make a case for the funding components. And I understand that building a new route into Sooke may be cost prohibitive. However, in the short term, perhaps we can look at emergency detours in the areas where, when there's a closure, can we find ways to at least open up a section some way for emergencies so you always know you can get home.
So this Ministry of Transportation sort of corridor study is ongoing right now?
Yes, they are looking at other data from like ICBC, for example, and they initiated this study last year, so we do hope to have something in the spring.
I want to talk about the great turnout in 2014 for the civic election. There was a high engagement in Sooke. It seems higher than many other municipalities. So already having that engagement, you want to take it one step further. And I know you've just started public input sessions. What is your hope with that mechanism? That people will come forward, obviously, and talk about their concerns about Sooke, but larger vision?
The larger vision is it's an opportunity for me to gather information from our residents. So now that I'm on the Transit Commission, I would like to hear from residents what would make transit more attractive, what improvements do you feel are necessary. I would also like to hear experiences on medical services. Do you have a family doctor right now? Are you still looking for one? What has that service been like for you? Because medical services is another concern that's facing our growing community. What sort of amenities do you feel Sooke is needing? Our public process right now restricts residents to speak only to items that are on the agenda, and a public hearing is very specific. And so oftentimes when someone does come in, they may have something they want to raise to council, but the procedure doesn't allow them to speak to it. So I thought, okay, before every regular meeting, maybe this would be an opportunity to receive some input on other matters that are not on the agenda or other matters of concern.
And it's really freeing up opportunity, space, and time for people to talk about whatever is on their mind.
Yes, and then the plan is to record the comments or questions and then to come back with a response and to have this information available on the website. There may be times other councillors are joining me in chambers at the same time, but there can be a more technical question that we need to look into, and then we can report back.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Of all the changes in Sooke that I've seen over the last decades, and I'm sure lots of people have noticed it, I remember when everybody talked about there's a traffic light in Sooke. Now there are two. There's quite a vibrancy to the downtown. So there's still probably always going to be that balance that so many people are asking for that live in semi-rural communities, which is we don't want to lose our ambience. We don't want to lose the goats and the sheep and the long driveways. At the same time, we need economic revitalization, probably on a fairly regular basis. How do you see that balance unfolding? And I'm sure already around the council table, you and council have talked about many opportunities and avenues. The difficulty might be in the intersection there.
Yes, and council in our strategic plan, we really want to see a growth in our commercial tax base. Right now, residents are carrying the majority of the load there, and with the commercial tax base also means decent work for our residents. And that may then mean that residents don't have to commute all the way into town. They can actually live and work and enjoy life in Sooke, and that would make our community a more complete one.
Much
as
like
time goes on.
Much like people have said about Langford.
Yes.
It created an empire, whether you like it or you don't, if you live there or you don't. But people do say, who live there, many of them, we like it. We don't have to go to Victoria. We're not so dependent
Yes.
on the commute and the services in another municipality.
Exactly.
It's good to hear.
Sooke at one time was a complete community when we were more resource dependent with the logging, the mill, and then a lot of commercial fishing out of the harbor. And now we're transitioning through that. However, now we've become more of a commuting town. And so I would like to see us find our way and to become more complete and more resilient as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear that, the self-sufficiency especially.
Yes.
We're going to take a brief break, Maja. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back. Have a look at the meetings that are coming up, and you could get a hold of Sooke. Join the input sessions if you like, and we'll be back in a moment. We are here on Upfront, an interview with Sooke Mayor Maja Tait. Maja, a lot of people look at gender balance still. Sometimes I feel like we've done that, we've been there. We shouldn't be talking about it. It should just be such a natural part of all our lives to be inclusive. But in Sooke, at the council table, you have 5 women
Yes.
and 2 men.
Yes.
So heavily weighted to the female side. I guess I just want to ask, what sort of advantage do you think that gives council as a whole? And how is the atmosphere at Sooke Council?
I think from the last election, what also happened is the incumbent councillors were all re-elected. And as you look at previous councils, women have often served on council, and our former mayor, Janet Evans, served a number of terms. And I was elected when she was mayor, and we had, I think, 4 women and 3 men in that council. So it seems to be our norm, and when you look at all the service clubs and community organizations, we are a community where women really take the lead on a number of different, plans and initiatives for our community. I think for us it provides a real diverse opinion and perspective around the table. We have a younger elected woman who is serving and is really bringing forward a voice from youth. Another more seasoned councillor has 3 children of her own, so always getting her perspective on what that is like. We have another woman who is just recently retired after a very long and active career in public service, and then myself now as 3 terms. And we certainly appreciate our men folk as well. We wouldn't be complete without them.
You have lots of talent around that table.
But I think we have a very balanced perspective, and we cover a very good cross-section of Sooke, representing those that have been in Sooke for generations and some that are more newly landed within the community at the same time.
I do want to talk about a little bit of a dust-up that happened, and it relates to the women on the council table. It relates to your maternity leave, you being
Yes.
a woman, and the men that were around the table. So one of the most seasoned politicians is Rick Casper,
Yes.
who served for a long time as an MLA as well. And it just seemed strange when you took your maternity leave that suddenly Rick Casper was replacing you as CRD director. It didn't seem like much consultation had gone on there. But I just wondered what your feeling was at that time, because it felt as an observer that there was just some dirty tricks going on, and it's all solved. There was
Yes.
no issue. It's all finished in terms of relationships between you and Mr. Casper. Seem to be everything is fine now.
Yes.
How did it occur to you when it happened, though?
When it happened, I was surprised, of course. But I think what that has done is it's really brought forward what life as a new mom on council can be. And I'm not the only elected official in BC that has a baby, or that, while serving in office. And certainly we're all getting to know each other at various conferences and the like. But I think it was a great opportunity to just show what maternity or parental leave looks like for elected officials, and how we can address these things and move on. Councillor Casper and I still have an excellent working relationship. I appreciate and value the wisdom that he brings to the council chambers, and I think it was an interesting way for us to actually bring this forward and have a conversation about it in the public.
I think so too. It was
Yes.
very instructive to everybody who was watching. And everybody will, to some degree, or many people in their own settings, in their own office environments, can use it as kind of a litmus test and say, how would we react? And was that fair? Was it right? I think the reporting was fairly accurate. Do you agree?
From what I saw and read, yes, I do. What was interesting to me, though, was other comments or calls that I received from members of the public that felt strongly that since I now have a child, I should actually resign from office.
Oh,
And that surprised me quite a bit. And I feel that if I was missing meetings or not managing, not able to handle the workload, maybe that would be a reasonable thing to say. But to actually tell me right before I was returning to office that you have a baby, you should resign. I mean, that is no place in today's society whatsoever.
I don't think so. I totally agree with you there. Do you have role models that you have seen carry off this incredible balance? Motherhood, political work, public service. There are other women in politics that certainly, as you say, have children, have babies. Judy Tyabji, I remember, was
Yes.
breastfeeding in her office, and I think her child had a crib there.
Yes, and mine has a playpen in my office as well. However, I think, I also see a lot of men that are caring, maybe some older men that are caring for their wives, that are going through health issues, that are caring for their parents. And I think we all look out for our family in one way or another, whether it's children or adults or a spouse as well. And certainly they're also good examples of needing to keep yourself healthy and positive, to be present for your family, and then to also be of service to the public. So everyone's challenged with it in one way or the other.
Excellent. It's good to know that everything is solved. You have a great relationship with Councillor Casper.
Yes.
And it sounds like the others as well. I want to move on to your role within the CRD, Maja, and what kind of an impact do you hope to have there? It's different, very different than your role as mayor of Sooke.
Yes.
So much far-reaching and regional base. How do you feel you make an impact, and what do you have to bring to that role?
I feel there's the perspective from Sooke, of course. As mentioned earlier, we are very reliant on the core for medical services, for employment and the like. And so we are not fully independent on our own. We need to work together. At the same time, having lived in Victoria, Saanich, and other municipalities, I have a sense of why it's important to work together. And then also I had commuted back and forth myself, along with the 80% of our employed residents. I do enjoy CRD services like the parks. We have piped water, but I also want to share the challenges of our residents who don't have access to piped water, and restrictions from getting into parks and enjoying the abundance that we have, and to share that. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I respect all the wisdom that is certainly around the board table. There are other directors that have been serving for numerous years, and their experience is of enormous benefit to me.
Have you learned from them, and you bringing your own experience together, new challenges? What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Sooke?
I think the biggest challenge is our ability to afford the CRD tax burdens on various projects. And of course, we only pay for the services that we use, but at the same time, when you add all the various requisitions together, we do hit a tipping point sometimes on what is reasonable and what our residents can afford. Many of our residents are seniors or young families, and they're living on a tight budget themselves.
You talked about the beautiful parks and trails. Sooke,
Yes.
as many people from this whole region go to Sooke specifically for that
Yes.
purpose. So there's still a very valuable tourism aspect to Sooke living, isn't there?
Absolutely, and that's why I'm very excited to see Harborview, or the Sea-to-Sea Park, have its official grand opening this year. The trail system in there is amazing for mountain biking, for equestrian use or hiking, and the views are just incredible from Mount Quimper.
I'm glad you mentioned mountain biking because I know you're one of those fiends out there too. It's a way
Yes.
that you balance, right?
Absolutely.
Get on your bike and pedal forever.
Well, as long as my stamina will allow me to, but I am fortunate and very grateful to have this trail system in my backyard and to be able to ride the trails year-round as well.
Tell me why you joined civic government in the first place. You've had a lot of success in your career and in many other areas of your life. You mentioned your volunteering earlier in Leadership Victoria. Was it other people that convinced you? Because that's often the case. Other people saying you'd make a great mayor.
I did hear it. I attended the Women of Distinction hosted a conference for younger women many years ago, and there was a forum on how you can change your world or be a part of it, either for social change or political change. And I attended one on political change and met a number of women that were serving either municipally, federally, or provincially, and that sort of I started to think about it, and then it was through my Leadership Victoria program where we did a study on the then 2005 civic election that I thought maybe this is a way for me to contribute back into our community. And I was a new resident to Sooke, and I thought, well, maybe this is something, I'll give it a go in 2008.
Good for you. Well, we've talked about regional and smaller municipality of Sooke. What about the bigger picture with UBCM, the Union of BC Municipalities? It's vast. I think whenever I see the representatives, it comes home immediately. The incredible diversity in British Columbia, the small villages and towns, Sooke, Victoria, the mainland, that work must be quite daunting when you begin.
It was, but the staff support there is phenomenal, as well as other executive members that are serving. They're wonderful mentors, and I really start to appreciate just how diverse and beautiful our province is. You know, I love living on the island, but when you hear and speak with others from other places, you realize just how phenomenal BC really is.
Is there, I know it's early in your experience with UBCM, but is there a thread you've already seen that goes through those representatives of small towns and very big cities? Is there a common element to those of us who are British Columbians that you've seen through your work?
It's our appreciation of the land, the resources, and the community spirit. Whether you're in a small community or a big city, you always see that. And in everyone that I've met who's served, it's a desire to do their best for their community. No one was elected to destroy their town.
No.
Everybody wants to be involved in something bigger than themselves,
Yeah.
and to make an impact and to be of service to future generations. And that's what I see around the table all the time. And sometimes there's a lot of similarities. And so for myself, when I think of the issues that Sooke has, I realize, well, we're not alone in this. Other communities are facing the same challenges with inadequate health care or long commutes, and we can begin to draw from one another, and we are stronger together.
That's a wonderful note to end on. I mean, it's so optimistic, and it sounds like you've got lots you want to bring to the table. We want to remind everybody that there are public input sessions on a regular basis in
Yes.
Sooke. You don't have to be on the agenda. You can bring your own ideas to Sooke. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first edition of Upfront, Mayor Tait from
Thank you.
Sooke.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure to have you here. Thank you. We hope you'll join us again next month.